This episode of Blacktop Banter is brought to you by Crafco, the world's leading manufacturer of packaged pavement preservation materials and equipment for the asphalt industry. Learn more at crafco.com. Hey everybody, it's Blacktop Banter here from CONEXPO, as you can see behind us. We're in the podcast room and fortunate enough to have a couple guests with me, and I'm going to let them introduce themselves, and then we're going to talk a little bit about CONEXPO and our experiences so far this year here in Vegas.
I am Jeani Ringkob. I am with Storybuilt Growth Strategy and Marketing and a new contributor to the Blacktop Banner Network as well.
I'm Brad Williams with Structure to Grow Consulting and Marketing and Media Creation. So first time here at CONEXPO and around a lot of this stuff. So just hanging out.
And Brad also has great taste in hats, it looks like, from what I'll say. So this was kind of our first request to be here in foyer to CONEXPO as far as Blacktop Banner goes. I'm sure everybody has seen that we've attended World of Asphalt and other expos, and it was really kind of like an eye-opening thing for me to realize that even though, like I was telling you guys, I covered like 50 or 60,000 steps or something, I noticed on my phone. Yeah. I still haven't made a dent into like the actual area of this place yet.
It's crazy.
What do you do with something like that size? Like how have you been able to chop it up at all? I know you have some speaking things going on. You're getting here. Is that even an ambition of yours at all, is to try to cover all the ground?
No, absolutely not. I actually was just talking with somebody about that yesterday, that I don't think you should even come here with that intentions, because it's not feasible.
Yeah.
I mean, you would just kill yourself in the process. So it's not feasible. I think that a show like this, you need to really think about, what do I want to accomplish at that show? Am I trying to find a couple partners because I'm wanting to steer my business in a certain direction? Am I wanting to really compare some equipment or make some connections because I know I'm going to be investing in some equipment this coming years? Make a list of those, and doing some prep in advance of these types of big shows, I think, is priority. Mm-hmm. Because even if you know who you want to see, like I came here, I knew who I wanted to see, but still, to find their locations or to arrange a place to meet is just a huge monumental task. And I'm knocking a ton of stuff out, but I will not touch even a fraction of what is out there. So I think doing some prep work and knowing what is my objective, and that's just kind of always my jam. Like, what's the ROI on every single activity and everything you're doing in your business? Yeah. Showing up at a show should be no different, even if you're just going and you're not an exhibitor. But for both sides, like, what is the objective of being there, making that investment, spending that time, and plan strategically ahead of time. These things are amazing, and they attract so many people, but you got to focus on your objective and make it worth it.
Yeah. I mean, Brad, what do you think? Like, we were talking before we started the podcast here about opportunity. This is one of those places where, like, you can have all the strategy that you ever wanted of, like, this is where we're going to go. We had an itinerary at Blacktop Banner of, like, we had to hit certain vendors and sponsors, and then all of a sudden, like, opportunity just, like, shows up, and you're like, oh, crud, now we got to get this all weaved in there and that. I mean, yeah, that is an element here that you're not really prepared for, but how do you deal with that type of stuff? And, I mean, do you think that people kind of expect that there's going to be opportunities like that here at this place?
That's a good question, and I think there's a lot of layers to that question. I want to second Jeani with what she said. I mean, I think when we send clients to events, when we go to events, we always have like a hit list,
right?
You know, and if I send a client to an event, I might even make their hit list for them and put it on. We put it on flashcards for them. This is who you have to meet. Track this person down. This is an ideal relationship for you,
right?
You know, this is my first time at CONEXPO, and I don't regularly attend. I mean, I know this is one of the larger expos, period, but I don't regularly attend expos of this size. A lot of stuff we attend might be considered like micro events, you know, where there's only 20,000 square foot of event space, you know. This is an overwhelming environment. And I think if I were coming in, whether I'm a vendor or I'm an attendee, I would say don't be a tourist.
Yeah.
Because it's just like you're just gonna kind of be in like overwhelm. It's like this event is a good reflection of Vegas. You're just gonna be in overwhelm mode the whole time you're here. It's like oh, what's going on? And if you look at it, like they have it broken up by different. I mean, what's relevant to somebody in the paving industry? There's a lot of equipment and a lot of vendors here that are not relevant. You're not going to go over to the Kubota tractors and probably do
bingo.
Do you know what I'm saying? So I think kind of realizing that that's the case. You're not going to get to see it.
Yeah.
Put it aside. But I think you start with the hit list. You start with the priorities, and then you let things unfold. But I would not just come in saying, "Oh, this place is full of opportunity," because you're going to get lost.
Oh yeah. Well, I was able to connect with two friends from the lawn care and landscape industry yesterday, and it was literally because the asphalt side and the landscape side physically brushed up against each other out in the open area, and they're like, "Are you like right at John Deere?" I'm like, "Yeah." "Okay, we'll be over in a couple minutes." And it'd been a year, 2 years, 3 years since I seen them, and it was like, boop. And they're like, "Well, we're going back over to our side now. We got stuff to take care of."
Yeah.
Like, "Oh,
Yeah.
okay, I'll see you guys later." Yeah, it's ironic, but that's one of the things I think is a cool element about this is the fact that there's not a cap really either.
No.
Right? When we go to some of the, like you were saying, some of the micro events and those types of things, there's only so many people, and most of the time they're really hyper located on one facet sometimes, or just one tight niche industry, and there's a cap there somewhat to it. Where here, we did a promo spot with Yokohama Tires yesterday, and I was like, never in my life did I ever think that we were going to do that, right, through Blacktop Banter.
Yeah.
And never would I have had the opportunity to do that. But that opportunity showed up because of a press release that we attended here, the media day, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's like the beautiful magic about CONEXPO. And it's also like a delicacy, being as it's going to be only every 3 years. But I feel like you need 3 years in order to plan for it. Right?
Oh, these poor people, they're going to need time to recover from that.
That's immediately what I was going to. Like, you got to recover from something like this. And I think to what you're saying, when you try to don't plan on seeing all, I think you got to build in some white space when you're going into an event of this size. And you got to build in, it's relative to the size of the event and what your expectations are. But I had more white space, even though I had a lot of, my hit list was big, I still intentionally blocked out white space because I knew the stuff would have to get adjusted. And I also knew I would run into people and people would say, "Oh, you need to meet so-and-so and you have to meet him here." And like you said, just opportunities come up at a place like this, which it's super exciting. I think the other side about this, and this is a challenge that everybody's going to be facing in a few days, is you're going to go home exhausted from this. But once again, I know I have spots in my calendar actually physically blocked out, no calls, no nothing, because I need to follow up. I need to decompress, but I also need to I have notes on, promises I've made people or things that I was, when I talked to them, I was like, "Oh, I have a resource that I think you could use, and I want to make sure I get that to you." So the biggest thing, in my business, I always use a strategy flywheel, and the last part of that is implement, and it's having a strong bias towards action. And after these shows, we get so exhausted, but that's what separates the people that are really going to leverage the time and investment they put in here are the ones that go home and take that next step, put it in their database, reach out and make those phone calls. And actually, I always tell my clients, what is the next step? You never leave any kind of conversation or engagement and don't know what the next step is.
Now that spring is here, it won't be long before we're back out in the field. And a key part of being successful this year is making sure we have the products we know and trust to get the job done right each and every time. That's why we use Crafco for all of our crack and joint sealant needs. Crafco products are safe, easy to use, and consistent in their quality and performance, so we spend less time troubleshooting and more time building jobs. Plus, Crafco's industry-leading service and support team means they're ready to assist with any questions we do have along the way. So, if you're ready to ditch the hassle and the headaches this year, visit Crafco.com and give their products a try. I know you'll be glad you did. That's CRAFCO.com.
Asphalt contractors, are you guys tired of using 10 different programs to create a nice professional looking report for your customer? Are you tired of having to drive back and forth to your job sites to capture photo updates and get measurements and quantities for change orders, or even having to mark your jobs out beforehand? We were too, so we developed Spot On Site, an all-in-one mobile app that allows you to measure and mark instantly from the palm of your hand, capture photos and videos that are all time-stamped and dated, and generate instant reports that you can send to your customers and your team members for a seamless collaboration. This is going to no doubt help you win more work, reduce inefficiencies, and stand out from the competition. Check us out for your free 14-day trial, spotonsiteapp.com.
Sam and Mike at Liberty Supply have been longtime supporters of Blacktop Banter. They have everything that you could need when it comes to asphalt supplies, including pour pots, spray tips, street brooms, flagging tape. They got melters. They pretty much got everything over there. And Sam answers the phone right away when you call. You can't get that anywhere else. Visit their website at libertysupply.biz or call 800-397-9907 and tell them I sent you.
So being this, again, my first time here, this place is B-roll heaven, like basically just point the camera and there is something either gigantic and huge or very interesting going on. Right. Mm-hmm. The best displays I've ever seen. I mean, the John Deere setup here is like
amazing. And that building
at an expo.
Monday,
yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Amazing.
So all of it is just, I mean, I can't keep up with it, just trying to get it. And that's another thing. Like, I wish that we had the manpower to get B-roll throughout the whole event, because it would just be cool. Yeah. I mean, I don't know what purpose it would serve me, but it'd be nice so cool.
Well, I can think of some.
So I think it's pretty overwhelming. I love this concept that there is a quiet space to have these conversations, that they're saying that content that comes out of these events is definitely something that needs to evolve. And I think events are probably have been a little bit slow to uptake what it could be. And I see some things happening here that are very exciting about the future of content and the future of events, because it's like, we like the eye candy and that's fun for social media, but they're really, because of the people that are gathered, the conversations that can happen here wouldn't happen probably in any other scenario. So facilitating those conversations that are so high value to the community. There's 100,000 people here, but there's millions that can be benefited by the information. And so those conversations, facilitating them, it's very exciting to see that happen.
Yeah, and then they get to tag their name, right? I mean, BAM's done such a great job. Why not nurture this organic content, right, that creates community and there's so many different types of people here from different types of industries that it blankets like a lot of the construction industry from top to bottom, right? When we get there. Talking about content and how much of B-roll there is, Wise was like, I'm going to be editing for days. He's like, I'm going to be in Blacktop Banter for weeks. He's like, if this is what we're going to do with all this stuff.
I know.
He's like, I'm going to have like a 5-minute video of just B-roll, right, of this stuff with music playing and doing whatever.
Right.
What about we talked about this quiet space here and them nurturing this. Jeannie, you are speaking today. Right?
Yes,
Can you touch on that a little bit? Because it's cool to go out and see all the vendors and what all we can buy and all the flashy stuff, the interesting stuff. Yeah. But they've done a great job on the educational side as well.
Yeah, and they've been really thoughtful in terms of listening to the industry and really making sure that they're pulling in speakers and content that is relevant to that. The hottest topics, they're attacking them from a couple different angles with different types of speakers, specific type topics, as well as because it's such a big show, you may have scheduling conflicts. So I think they've done a really incredible job. Lexia AI is just amazing at that. And their education, you have to make sure that you check in and that you're you sign up for them. Yeah. They are overselling. They have people at the doors waiting to get in. So their education side has gone crazy. And I think there's such a and I think there's the content side and the education, they really intersect. Yeah. And so we're out creating content all the time and we're talking to our customers about content and how does that incorporate into your strategy. And a big piece of that is education. Yeah. And when we come here, it's an opportunity to get very specific targeted education for industry. I'm talking today about, brand strategy, how you're perceived in the hearts and the minds of your customers, your industry, because, over 60% of people in these days will like leave a brand because it doesn't align with their values.
It's true.
And that is still true in our industry. We'd like to think it's not, but it really is.
Yeah.
But yeah, and this stuff we're learning this from other industries, but we can get really, really granular about how it applies to our industry specifically and how we apply that to be really effective at growing our businesses. So that type of stuff is really exciting because it's these high level educators, content coming in. You can get, it's well worth the pass to the education if you are committed to learning something. And whether you're wanting to learn some technical stuff, or if you're wanting to work on some business stuff, sales stuff, leadership, they really cover it all so well. I know workforce is such a huge topic, and they've had multiple speakers on that. That'll be one of my topics today. And I know for me, I wanted to get, we're going to talk about some of the conceptual things, like the high level things that everybody's talking about. But for me, I'm like, let's roll up our sleeves. I'm going to give you tools. We're going to talk about the anatomy of a job description that doesn't just suck.
Right.
Because Brad and I, we talk marketing and stuff like that. And I think, why is HR writing job descriptions? Like, that is the dumbest thing ever. And they all look the same. They all make me want to just vomit. And it's a buyer's market, right? So let's take some of those strategies and implement them into that. And it's a pain point that everybody has, but there's actual tangible tools. And like what I love about this industry and teaching and educating and speaking in this industry and working with my clients in this industry is we're doers. Like we're used to getting out there and getting dirty and doing stuff. So they actually want to know, what do I do? What is a tool? What does it look like? So I'm driving everybody crazy because I'm actually going to be drawing today and like talking about, this is what this looks like. This is a strategy model. If we do this, it changes here. Or you can try this and it's going to change this. And I'm incorporating a ton of case studies because people want to hear stories of people in their industry that have the same problems, that are leaving $2 million, $4 million on the table because they can't hire another crew. Right? Those are real tangible issues. And the companies that figure this stuff out are the ones that are going to win. And those are the ones that are coming here and taking part in this. And also, how is your business doing this throughout the year? You're talking about content. A lot of the people walking around here just that are attendees, why aren't you creating content to go back and disseminate to your partners or customers that aren't able to, like, yes, there's a lot of people here, but not everybody's here.
Not everybody.
Right? Talk to them, share that experience. So I see, there's really probably a lot of that left on the table that's not getting leveraged as well.
Yeah, and I think that the educational side of that aspect, the diversification that they have here, the people that would attend that class are in a certain position in asphalt business. And meanwhile, the other people that are in a different position in that business may be at, Brian Hall did a class yesterday from Leeboy about commercial and residential paving introduction. Standing room only, like just packed, right? Well, obviously, the people that probably came up through business and are at a certain level within that business aren't going to be in that class. They're going to be figuring out how they do strategy in a way that doesn't leave money on the table, and they're able to get that other workforce together and going.
Dynapac continues to make an impact in the asphalt industry, literally. Recently unveiling their electric line of rollers and plate compactors, they lead the way in innovation when it comes to compaction, including their seismic technology, which creates a better, smoother, compacted surface. We're happy to have Dynapac as a supporter of the Blacktop Banter community and encourage you to interact with them on social media. For their full product lineup, visit Dynapac.com. Dynapac, your partner on the road ahead. We've had our 800 network phone number on the side of our trucks and equipment for a while now, and having branding power over your competition who has a complicated phone number versus 1-800-ASPHALT or 1-800-BLACKTOP makes it easy for people to remember, and all the calls go directly to you. Plus, when you join the 800 Pavement Network, you're joining over 300 pavement contractors who have generated over $2 billion in combined total sales. You can call 1-800-PAVEMENT or you can go to the website 1-800-pavement.com and you'll find them. From their iconic hot boxes to their infrared machines and now the KM Blacktop Banner Edition seal coating unit, KM International has established itself as one of the toughest and longest-lasting equipment manufacturers in the asphalt world. KM is comprised of an experienced team that brings you all the resources you would hope to see from an asphalt equipment manufacturer. Check out KM International on all forms of social media, and be sure to see all they have to offer at kminternational.com. If you've been listening to the show for a while, you know that I've been using Stencil Plus for years. They have everything I need for line striping jobs, from multi-piece stencils, stencils with different thicknesses, stencils for the big box stores, custom stencils, and they have free shipping on all orders within the U.S. Plus, for a limited time, friends of this podcast can save an additional 10% on all orders at Stencil Plus. Just use code BB10. That's BB10, as in Blacktop Banter, at stencilplus.com.
What are we going to take away from it, you think, personally? Brad, I'll start with you.
Oh man, I don't know that I'm ready to kind of, take it all in and like digest it and say, here's what I took away from it. I do think that, to kind of tag on to what you were talking about with the education is, that is content creation. When people think of content, we've kind of labeled that, and we've either lumped it into, I think, of like a blog post or a social media post. Right. But anything you do that communicates with your audience is content. And so one thing I like about here is the amount of classes to the amount of attendees. That ratio is really good here, because you have great content creators, educators or content creators, putting this out there and kind of making it to where I've been to a lot of events where there's 100 educators and 1,000 attendees.
Right.
And so you have tons and tons of people giving great information. The attendees don't know who to attend. There's 16 that sound interesting.
Yeah.
And I think that like that next level is, when do you start to really overlay tracks so it becomes very clear, these are the 3 to 5 sessions I need to attend while I'm at an event. Mm-hmm. I don't have to choose from the 100. They're helping me choose by my company size, by my industry, by my job title, by my, I think that's
really helpful.
That helps out a lot.
I think that's where it kind of has to go, because to me, where I think events like this, they are obviously a really great thing for what they are, but how do they extend forward into time? How are they facilitating the ongoing education, the ongoing community that bridges between here and the next time, whether it's 1 year or 3 years? How are they connecting that gap? And that's the big opportunity for these organizations, to take the creators, the educators, the brands, and bridging the gap from one to the next. So.
Yeah. Right. I mean, as fast as everything's moving and changing, in 3 years it could look completely different.
Right? It will. I'm sure. I'm sure it will.
Yeah.
So
some of the platforms we're leveraging right now may not even exist.
They probably won't
at that point,
or they might not be relevant even if they do exist.
New ones.
Or they're relevant.
And so I think one of my takeaways to this is, I think it's really cool because I have had a very skeptical point of view on trade shows. I see a lot of niche trade shows that are dying.
Yeah.
I attend a lot of them, and it's like, 2 years ago they were great. This year it's like they have more vendors than attendees. I see that often. And to see an event that's still happening, that they're hitting record attendance, what is it, 140,000 people?
I think they said 177.
Wow. So to see that, I think, is awesome. Mm-hmm. And because the event industry has got to evolve with people.
Yeah.
And to see this one being successful, and kind of, I think it's a great beacon for all the smaller events to say, what are they doing that's making it successful? Mm-hmm. And how do we do that? Because events are a priceless opportunity for connection, for education, for all kinds of things. So.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah. Jean, what do you think? We'll end with you on a piece of advice. It's our first attendance coming here, and Brad's first time coming here. I know you're going to say something about strategy, but as far as human relation, can we talk about some advice in that regard? Because 177,000 people.
Yeah.
It's overwhelming. You get in a room and there's 500 people there, and you're trying to make. You don't even try to. You just make connection.
Right.
Can you touch on that a little bit about some advice if you're going to come here and you're looking to start relationships and deal with relationships?
Yeah. It's such a great place to have relationships. So what resonates with me, and I think about your personality a little bit, mm-hmm. and who you are. Think about those objectives you had going out there. I know that we've joked that when I get to a show like this, people don't think of me that way, but I'm actually a total introvert. So I love speaking. I love this engagement, but like I told you guys, like after this, it's gonna be like the worst hangover. Like, even if I don't have a drink, like it's just gonna be like,
Don't talk to me.
I know, I'm gonna have to go curl up in a corner. Right. So for me, like I have little tricks, and like when I get in a room, I'm like, there's a really great book called like the 5-second rule. Like, just in here the other day, like let the spontaneous moments happen and lean into those. And I have to be intentional about that. So, and when you get even the most extroverted person, when you're here and you're overwhelmed and you're so focused, or you get stuck in a conversation, sometimes you have to stop the conversations, even though they're great, because you're going to be limited on time.
Yeah.
Right. And say, I love this. Let's connect. Here's what I'm going to follow up with you. Right. You have that next step. But you can't just sit there and talk about your favorite teams forever. Right? Because you're missing other things.
Right.
So that's one side of it. That's one token. And the other side is that 5-second rule. Like if I hear somebody say something, somebody spoke about the crew collaboration the other day, and I'm speaking about workforce development. I've worked on a huge project with TechSAPA this year. It's something I'm really leaning into, and I think it's a critical bottleneck for business owners. So it's important to me. And I heard her talking, and she was not on my hit list at all.
Right.
But I immediately made sure I was not leaving that room until I talked to her. And I already, as I was moving over there, I knew what I wanted from that conversation. Right. And we're going to set up this, and this is what I think we can do, but we're going to talk more and figure it out. Right. It took me 10, 15 seconds to make that connection. And her and I have already been texting back and forth during the show. And I know that we're going to continue that conversation because she has great information I need. I have some really cool experiences in some of my projects that could be great for her.
Right.
So, think about that. You have to keep moving.
Yeah.
Don't get, bogged down because you just can't afford to. But make those connections that are spontaneous too.
Yeah, and that's totally normal.
Right.
In this atmosphere, that's totally normal.
Right.
If you're like, well, I gotta go, they're like, okay, see ya. And
nobody
it's not
cares. Nobody's offended.
No one's offended, and
Right.
you jump right into the conversation. We were in one of the areas the comparison between that and the fact the vendor booths that are everywhere. We will be somewhere, and I'm like, we're wasting time. We got to go.
No offense, and nobody cares in this environment. You're right. Nobody's going to take offense to that.
Yeah.
I wanted to make one comment about. I loved what you said about the shows moving forward, and props to everybody here that's really trying to differentiate their booths. That's trying to make it experiential. Mm-hmm. I saw on Instagram a post of the machine that was opening a bottle of beer and pouring it in a glass and then handing it to somebody. How cool! How cool. I'm excited by this to help my clients prepare to have better shows, whether they're an exhibitor or attendee in the future. And when I come here, I get excited and I get ideas. And I even look at a booth and I look at how it's laid out, and I'm like, I love how they're drawing you to a certain point in their booth. There's so many cool, fun things to see, even several layers under here.
Yeah, and I think that's one thing about this expo itself is a differentiator amongst all expos. The booths are becoming differentiators. The people and the content that they capture are differentiators. Those are the ones that stand out, and the ones that win, and the ones that make an impact here going forward. And we're just excited to be here. They've nurtured us really well while we've been here. That's been fantastic. I am excited already for what those 3 years look like, right? When we're how are things going to change? What is it going to look like? I have to imagine we're going to be back, and it's going to look a lot different for us here too when we come back. So, I really appreciate you guys taking time with us. I know you got some busy stuff here today, and just thankful you were able to be part of it and that we're able to document this. That's one thing I keep saying is document it. Whether you're writing it down, whether you're taking B-roll, whether you're doing whatever, document. And that'd be my advice when you're here. It may be so overwhelming. Make sure you're documenting so you got something to look back on, and at least try to organize some kind of strategy with the content.
Such a good idea.
Going forward.
Such good advice.
So for myself, for Jeani, for Brad, this is Blacktop Banter at CONEXPO in Vegas, and as always, we speak asphalt.